Hello, I want to make a little video to explain the other conditionals to you. We already discussed in the past the zero conditional, where on both sides the truth, it's a fact, right? If it rains, present tense, it is wet. And the future possible in the other video also, when if dad comes, present tense, we will go to McDonald's. And now I'd like to talk to you about the other two. And the other two are a little bit special because they're both impossible. Basically, we are complaining about something. So let's take a look at the first one. The first one, called present unreal, which is impossible, talks about something that happened in the past that had the second part now, right? If I did something and now something happened and I'm reacting to that. So if something happens, then something will happen in the present tense. Now, what this means is that it's kind of impossible for me to go back in my little spaceship, right? If I were an alien, I could get in my time machine and go back to the future, and unfortunately I can't do that. So what this really means is I'm complaining about something that didn't happen now. So let's take a look at an example. Here we go. Sorry. I'll go back one and see. So here's my example. When I was a child, we had a commercial on TV by a company called Oscar Mayer. They made wieners, which is a German word for hot dog. Okay, and here you have the Wienermobile. And the Wienermobile is there to sell hot dogs. So one of the commercials said, they had little children saying, "If I were an Oscar Mayer hot dog wiener, everyone would be in love with me." And they sang it, and it was kind of cool. Maybe if I have time, I'll play it for you. The problem, of course, with that is that it's impossible for me to be a hot dog, and so everybody is not in love with me, right? But if we look at how we structure this, we know that after the if, I have to use the simple past, right? Now, normally I would say if I was, because in English when we conjugate I, he, she, it with to be, it's was. But I want you to understand that if something is unreal or impossible, in English we can't use the word was, because was is for real things. So if you ever hear if I were, you know that I'm dreaming or I'm talking about something impossible. So the first thing that happens is that I have to put the past tense for the first verb. If I were an Oscar Mayer wiener. And then in the second one, I'm going to use the simple present, but I'm going to put the word would, could, or might in front of the simple present. Okay? Now, what you have to know about these words, would, could, or might, is these are called modal auxiliaries in English. Okay? They're like to do and to be, but they're special because they have more meaning. Would means an intention, a conditional intention. Could means that I have a conditional ability. I have the ability to do something. And might talks about an intention also, but a very small or weak intention. This is the one we use the most, but you could change this. You have the ability. You could change this to tell me that you're talking about ability. You might change this, but I'm not sure, if you wanted to tell me you weren't sure. Okay, so if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, I'm not an Oscar Mayer wiener, everyone would be, simple present tense, in love with me. Now, the reason I don't say would am or would is because after a modal auxiliary, we don't conjugate, right? So would be is considered the base form of the word to be. I conjugate am, is, are only if I don't have another auxiliary here. Okay? So I hope that helps. This is the first one. Let's take a look at the second one. The second one is more complicated. It's called the past impossible, and here is the concept. The concept is something happened in the past, the result happened in the past, and now I'm really still upset, or it's affecting me now. The result that happened and is finished is now continuing to affect me in English. Now, what that means is that because it's not finished, I can't use the simple past in English, because the simple past in English refers to an action that is finished in the past, and I can tell you when it happened. And here I can't tell you when it happened. So this is not possible to use the simple past. This in English is called the present perfect. Okay? Now, present perfect because the auxiliary is in the present tense, and perfect because the verb is in the past participle, which means it's a past tense. Okay, that's why we call it present perfect. Now, it's new to you, but let me just tell you quickly that the auxiliary for the first time is going to be to have, and to have, when it's conjugated in the present tense, you can have, or you can have has. He has, I have, she has. Okay? And the perfect tense for all verb tenses, all regular verbs are verb plus ed, or verb plus d if it finishes in d. But unfortunately for you, we have some irregular verbs. And irregular verbs, let's say to buy, the past tense of buy is bought, and the past participle of buy is bought if you studied your irregular verb tense, which means no problem for you if you know the irregular verb tense. However, there are some words like grow that have the past simple past of grew, and the past participle is different, so now it's going to be grown and not grew. So I have grown. Alright, so I can't stress enough that here you need to know the irregular past tense verbs, otherwise you will make a mistake. Alright, so we know that this action happened and it affects me now, so I use present perfect. And I make present perfect by to have in the present tense and the past participle. We also know that this verb action happened before the second action, and so it is older. We call this the past, and this is kind of the past. Okay? Now, the question I have for you is, if this is present perfect and I want to talk about the past, what would I do to, what comes before the present perfect? What is the verb tense that comes before the present perfect? And if you take the time to think about it very carefully, you should have this answer. The one that comes before the present perfect, of course, is the past perfect. And then that would be super correct. The past perfect comes before the present perfect. So for this verb tense, I now have to do the following. So let's keep going. Okay, perfect. So first action, past perfect. Second action, present perfect. Okay. So, and this is the definition. Change an action in the past that would change another action in the past that affects me now. So, basically, impossible. Let's take a look at an example. By the way, how do you make the past perfect? I take the present perfect and I change the present perfect to have to the past perfect I had. It's that simple. It's really simple. Here's an example. If I had studied, I didn't study, I would have passed the test. So, what happened? I didn't study, I didn't pass the test. Right now, in the present tense, I just found out I have to do the course again. It affects me now. Or I have to register now. Okay? Here's another example. If I had studied, I might have passed the test. Here I had the intention, but a strong ability to do it, intention to do it. Here I wasn't sure. There was a 5% chance that I could do that. And here's another example. If I had studied, I had the ability to pass the test. Okay? 3 examples using the different modals that I can choose from. Of course, this is the one I like the most. This one talks about ability. This one talks about uncertainty, possibility. Okay? But I didn't study, I didn't pass a test, I feel bad right now. Okay, that is your your fourth and final conditional in English. All right. So I hope this helps. I will give you some chance to practice this. And thank you for listening. And I will post this, and you can watch this as often as you like. Thanks. Bye.